Matt Preston, good morning. And you are the first guest on the Use It Up podcast. Tell us more.
There are two sides to this whole waste issue. The first is the waste within the supply chain, so farm gates, supermarkets, and that's obviously a huge issue, and that's something that really gets addressed by Food Bank, by Second Bite, by Fair Share, by Oz Harvest. And then on the other side, it's the food that we waste in our homes. And if you think that we're probably wasting between 1 or 5 of the bags of groceries we buy, we're probably just effectively throwing away. So the idea is to try and find ways of minimising waste in the home in order to really put some more dollars in your pocket. That means Delicious next Thursday will be producing their first zero waste issue, which is an issue of the magazine that's dedicated to trying to find smart ways of using up the stuff you'd normally throw away. And there's also an accompanying podcast called Use It Up that will come out also on that Thursday. And I sit with Phoebe Wood, the food director of Delicious, and we discuss, what to do with, we're looking at 2 ingredients this week, which is broccoli and feta. So how to get the most out of your broccoli. I don't know about you, Tim, but when you make broccoli, and I think we've all been guilty of this, we cut the lovely little delicate florets off and we throw the rest away. But obviously the leaves can be used. The stem is delicious. Peel that, chop that into battens, stir fry it, put it in soups, make it into a sauce. That's something you don't need to throw away. So, and with feta, one of the tips I tried is just putting feta after you've done your Sunday roast. Crumble up your feta on a roasting tray, put in the oven, dry it out. You get this great kind of almost like a feta parmesan that you can use. So the idea is to try and put as little as we can into the bin and use it up. 1, because it's good for the planet. 2, because it's also good for our bank balance. Is
it a mentality, do you think, in the kitchen? I know that, we have to get a bit creative with the kids sometimes and slice a bit of carrot into the bolognese and...
Look, you're absolutely right, Tim. I think it's totally that attitude, and I think also there's a number of proof. I've been writing about minimising waste for Delicious now for probably 12 years. But there's certain stuff that we do. The thing we put into the freezer. That dish, the leftovers we put into the freezer, and then we find mummified a year later.
Oh, exactly.
The thing that's at the back of the fridge. You put in leftovers in the back of in the fridge, and then as the days go on, the leftovers get pushed further and further and further back in the fridge. And then about 2 weeks later, you come back, you find that Tupperware box or that plastic box, you open it up and there's something kind of hairy, looks like a yeti in there. Yeah. You have to throw it out. So, there are certain things we can get into the habit of doing, like maybe on Sunday, not using ordinary ingredients, like maybe on a Wednesday, going through that crisper drawer and making a minestrone using the vegetables that are left over. Kind of having an amnesty, making sure when you use leftovers, the aim is to use in the next 2 days because they're not going to get any better. Minimize, if you're going to put stuff in the freezer, label it with a date, go through your freezer every kind of week or so, and then anything that either throw stuff away that you're not going to use, but ideally try and use stuff that you've got in there. But the rainy day probably should be this week, not in 3 months' time.
And quite often some of those concoctions that you come up with can be very, very tasty. The bottom line is an important one here too, isn't it, Matt? Because food waste costs the Australian economy $20 billion a year.
Yeah. And look, I think that's obviously there's what's good for the environment and from our pocket. And there's also what's good for the environment and really this idea of this tragedy that, as we know, people always say this, we don't have a problem with the amount of food we grow or produce. We have a problem in terms of distribution. And so really, whether it's, I'm involved with Second Bite, I'm on the board of Second Bite, Second Bite picks up, millions of tons of food, in order to take that fresh, nutritious food that, it's still good to go, but would probably end up in landfill, and take that and then redistribute it to the 1,300 partner organisations that organise meal services, lunch, because we have a huge food security issue. And if we can sort of solve those 2 problems, one of the environmental problem of food waste and landfill, and on the other hand, the fact we've got over 1 million Australians who don't have enough fresh, nutritious food to eat, it's a great, I love those ideas. There's 2 for ideas. 2 problems, 1 simple solution.
Yeah, sounds great. And just finally, enlightening the subject a little, because a number of people, a number of my colleagues out here are ask him about these peanut butter biscuits or peanut butter cookies. Tell me more.
It's a recipe. It's a recipe that I found. I think it must have come out of America maybe 12 years ago. I put them up I put them up about 12 years ago. And they've suddenly got this sudden new lease of life, and it's very simple. It's a cup of peanut butter. It's a cup of sugar. It's 1 egg. You mix it all together. You make little balls of these sweet balls. You put them on a baking tray into a 180-degree oven for 9 minutes, and you get these. And I'm just going to say to you, if you like this, they sound healthy because they're gluten-free.
Oh, good.
They're basically they're just peanut buttery goodness, super simple. But I mean, I think that's the other thing in terms of thinking about minimizing waste. It's also things like using getting that jar of Vegemite. When you scraped it all the way out, but you then put some hot water in there, shake it, and you'll get some Vegemite tastiness that you can pour into stocks, which is great. So trying to find those kind of solutions of how when you buy those loaves of celery, you can dehydrate those celery leaves and make celery salt for your Bloody Mary tomorrow morning, Tim, when you're having a bit of a brunch.
Yes. Okay, well, I'll look forward to that Bloody Mary. Look, you make me hungry. Great to chat with you, Matt, and some great ideas. And people, get that delicious magazine, get in and listen to the podcast. Have a good weekend.
Fantastic, Tim. Same to you.